All right, welcome back to the Art of Show. This week we're going to talk about all things visual development with Armand Serrano.
Welcome to the Art of Show, where we feature the people who are creating amazing stories for kids. Join us as we chat with children's book illustrators and authors, storyboardists, animators, and more. Now, their art might be for kids, but aren't we all just kids at heart? Here's your host, Brandon.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Art of Show. We've got a great one for you this week. We're chatting with Armand Serrano, who is an amazing visual development artist. He's worked with studios like Disney, as well as Sony, on a bunch of different projects, including Tarzan and Mulan way back in the 90s, all the way to Big Hero 6 and Zootopia more recently. We really get into what it means to be a visual development artist and how he takes storyboards, interprets them so that they can get rolling on animation. Armand has an amazing story. He's originally from the Philippines, and he has moved to the U.S. and kind of how he got here and all the things he did once he got to the States. He's also an incredible teacher, and I want to let you guys know about a conference that's going on in Manila. It's called Icon, and Armand is there, as well as some other incredible artists. So be sure and check that out. There's a link in the show notes. If you guys are watching on YouTube, it's in the description. Or if you guys are listening, make sure and check the show notes. And as always, if you really like what I'm doing here, if you're on YouTube, make sure and subscribe and give me a thumbs up on this video. That is a massive help. Or if you guys are listening over on iTunes, make sure and subscribe and leave a review. That is the number one way you can help the show. And also let me know what you'd like to see for the future. All right, so let's dive into our interview with Armand. Well, we want to welcome you guys back to the podcast, hanging out with an amazing artist today. Armand, whenever I come across your work in my Instagram feed or on Tumblr, like I just feel so much worse about what I can do. I'm like, my gosh, this stuff is so cool. I mean, you've done amazing projects at Disney. One of my favorite movies lately of Zootopia, and those environments were amazing. And even you just, as I saw you tweeted about Olaf and the short coming out for Coco at the end of this year, which is a lot of fun.
Right. That was the last project I worked on. By the way, thank you so much for the kind words regarding my work.
No worries. Well, I would love to kind of get into your journey. And so you're not originally from the U.S.?
No.
And you grew up in the Philippines, is that right?
Yes, I did. So, I grew up in Manila. And I've been in the industry for, 27 years. I started in 1990. Yeah, I just got out of college at the time. Didn't know what to expect. Actually, I didn't take up any animation program.
Because was it civil engineering? Did I see that?
Yeah. So
how'd you get from engineering to art? That's kind of random.
Well, I mean, just quickly, just going back, I always wanted to do arts. Since I was a kid, I draw. I mean, as far as I could remember, I've been drawing a lot. But it's something that, during that time, in that part of the world, I mean, it's not something for an average person to aspire for. I want to be an artist, I want to be an animator. It's something like a long shot. We didn't have any animation programs during the time, but I always loved to do that. So even though I was doing a lot of artworks and drawings, it never. I mean, I wanted to go into fine arts or architecture, but of course, my parents would always have a good intention. They would always ask me, why don't you get something a little bit more technical that would land you a real job.
Yeah.
So I chose between architecture and civil engineering. At least they would have drawings in them. My two other brothers, they are architects. I mean, they were architectural students at the time, so I figured, okay, I'll go for the civil engineering one. I didn't realize there's so much math on it. I think definitely. It took, if I counted it right before, I think I'd have like 24 math subjects in my entire 5. Actually, the course was 5 years, but it took me 6.5 years to finish the whole thing. As soon as I got out of college, I went to go for an apprentice engineering job. And I was so bored. And my wife, which, we were dating in the same university at the time, she had a classmate whose sister started working for Hanna-Barbera studio in Manila. During this time, this is the start of outsourcing from LA. They outsource everything in Manila because we're in the Philippines, we're also English speaking and very Americanized. So they Warner Brothers, Hanna-Barbera, Marvel, Disney TV, they started having their studios in Manila. So
Was this the early 90s?
I think they started in the early 80s. But
early 80s. Okay.
I applied. I got out of college in '89, so
Okay.
I applied that year, and Hanna-Barbera responded, and they took me in 1990. So since we didn't have any animation program, what these studios would do, they would send artists from here in LA and bring them over in Manila to train the different batches of artists. So I was trained as an in-betweener to become an animator later on. And it's a blessing I was able to get into Hanna-Barbera. They trained me. Then I got hired full time. I was in animation for a year until I found out about layout department, which I said, oh, I love this bear because it does a lot of environments, setups and camera and all those good stuff. Then I move on to layout. Then I guess the rest is history.
Yeah. What was it? You kind of mentioned it, but what was it about layout that drew you into it? Was that something you always loved as a kid too? Like that was kind of what you naturally went towards?
Yeah, I would love to do. When I was a kid, illustrations, anything historical. That's my stuff. I'm not much into focusing on just animation or just the characters.
Gotcha.
I love to do characters, but I would do, which I didn't know. It's almost like workbook. It's almost like storyboards. When I was a kid, I would do series of drawings. It's almost like comic book, but it's not entirely comic book because I love to watch movies. So I have everything I would have a hold on. I would always tell a story, so historical stories. Let's say a story of George Washington. Then I would do them in panels. And I would just draw them quickly, with the character and with the background. And I never knew what that was.
Yeah.
Never have an idea. But I was actually doing storyboarding. I was doing workbook panels, for
That's
animation. Cool. And I love to do that. And I love doing those quickly. So when I got into animation, I would animate just one character over and over and over again, the movie. And I was in betweener. So I was the one doing in between the key poses for animators. It was fun when you see them move. But sometimes I'm an impatient guy, maybe.
Yeah.
So before I see that, it would take me a week to give them 100 in betweens. Oh, now I can see that 5-second shot that I did. It was fun, but when I realized I can do layout, layout is a 2D layout. Basically from the word itself. It's funny because nowadays it's different. It's similar and it's different from 3D layout. The concept is similar, but in 2D layout, what we do is we're the first line of offense, if you want to put it that way, in production.
Okay.
So from the storyboards, so we have visual development artworks, we have the storyboards, and we have the script. We will take the board panels because there has to be an in-between the story and production. In production, you have 3 pipelines. You have the backgrounds, you have the animation. The backgrounds are going to go into the background department. The animation, the animator has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
The poses. And the camera setup, because all 3 has to work together. Those are the layers that you're going to put on the camera. So there has to be a department which set it up for the 3 departments, which is layout department. So we would take the storyboard or workbook panels in feature animation. And actually, we do the workbook. We take the storyboard. We will do a workbook. The workbook means we will design, because the storyboard panels are pretty much very simple. They are just almost stick figure, but telling the story, more of the storytelling side. We have to translate that into an actual scene design. So every panel that you see, that's what you're going to see on either on TV or on the big screen. So we take that, we do them in panels. And we chop it off. Let's say you get one panel in storyboard. Okay, it's just an establishing shot, but it translates in layout. We look at the script. Oh, we can break this into 3 scenes. A close up, a medium shot, and this. Then we set it up. So we have the simplest explanation I could give you is okay. So we define the environment. If it's a pan or if it's just a medium shot or it's an establishing shot, then once we lay down so you have to draw them in pencil, the actual background that's going to be painted by the background painter. So we have to set it up in pencil. So if you see old drawings in, let's say, Pinocchio, the pencil drawings, that's layout.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna set up also in another layer the poses. Where would the characters be? Oh, the characters gonna start from pose A to pose B. So we have to draw a simpler version of the character moving along the background that we created. Then in another layer would be the camera mechanics. So we are the ones who define. Okay, we would start. Let's say it would start at 8 field, and it's gonna open up into a 16 field, and it's a pan. So these 3 layers, the background layout, the pencil background drawing will go to the background department, and they're gonna paint over it. So they're gonna trace it and paint, with real paint in the olden days. Then the camera poses, the character poses. Will go a copy will go to the animator, so they have a guide in their pegged paper where they're gonna start, what's the scale, what are they doing, are they in perspective, are they foreshortened, are they gonna pan. Those things would be laid out, so the animators would have a guide where to animate them and what size. Then the camera mechanics will go into the camera department. And later on, when animation is done, when background painting is done, they all meet up in scene planning, and they're gonna meet up in the camera department. When they put them in layers, they're gonna shoot. They use that guide, that field guide that we supply them in order to work the mechanics of the camera within the drawings that we supply to them. So that's, I believe, encapsulates what layout department was. So it was fun. I mean, we have a handle on everything. We have a handle on characters. We have a handle on, definitely, on the backgrounds and camera. The camera mechanics, I was able to use my math in civil engineering.
Yeah, I was about to say,
to come up with some formulas, how to, proportions or camera movements, field guides, all those things. I could create some simple algebra formula to keep it, to make it faster on my process, on my own personal process.
Yeah, that's real cool. So you were with Disney in Orlando, is that right? And you first started working on Mulan?
Yes,
is that your first feature? Okay.
Yeah. So what happened was so I was in Hanna-Barbera from 1990 till 1993. Then I move on to Marvel. There's a Marvel studio, an independent studio in Manila, working on Marvel TV series from 93 to 96. In 96, I tried to apply to different studios in the U.S. To Disney. I applied for I think Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Warner Brothers. I applied for Space Jam.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah.
I mean, all these features. DreamWorks, they're having their Prince of Egypt. But it's so hard because the TV quality that I have, when I got the portfolio requirements, it didn't. I didn't think I have it already. So what I did in 1996, I mean, it's also a blessing. I got the opportunity to migrate in here in the U.S. So my wife and I and our 2-year-old daughter, we moved in 96. There's a game company who hired me in Glendale. It's not there anymore. It used to be called a 7th Level. And so while I was working on 7th Level, the first thing I did as soon as I landed on American soil is applied. I cannot go back to school anymore because it's so expensive. But I took some classes from Associates in Art, which was it's almost like a precursor to our union school right now. So most of the instructors were working in the industry. So my instructors were Disney artists. So I was able to suck in all the Disney information, the feature quality information from that class. I took layout visualization and background design. I still remember that subject. So I took it for 13 weeks. I never slept for 13 weeks, build up my portfolio. I mean, I was working the whole day. I would come home, take care of my family. My wife was pregnant on our second baby at the time.
Oh,
As soon as
wow.
they went to bed, 10 o'clock in the evening, there you go, it's my time. So I opened up my portfolio. My wife called it my mistress because I was portfolio. As soon as she sleeps, I take care of my portfolio. I would draw the entire night, try to build, because I brought some artworks with me, but they're not feature quality. So some of them I have to redraw using the style and techniques that I learned from school. So it's very fresh from school. I would bring it into my portfolio. Then after 13 weeks, there would be moments I wouldn't sleep. I mean, so, for those of you who are planning to build your portfolio, it takes some sacrifice to do that, and focus. So I focused myself in those 13 weeks to just, doing a really good, exceptional portfolio as much as I could. Then I brought those portfolios to Warner Brothers, Disney, and DreamWorks again. Those were the main studios at the time. The Warner Brothers turned me down outright out the door. I went to Warner Brothers Studios, and this is their old studios. I think this time they were recruiting for a Quest for Camelot. That was a long time ago.
Okay.
Outright at the door, they told me, "Oh, you don't have it. Your portfolio, you don't have it. You don't have feature quality. You're not ready." I said, "Sure. I mean, that's fine. I have 3 identical portfolios, by the way." So I took the portfolio back. The other 2, I sent them to DreamWorks and Disney. DreamWorks, they like my work, but they said, "Since you came from TV, we're gonna give you a test." So I said, "Fair enough, So let's schedule a test." So that I was on the phone with them. And as soon as I remember this vividly, as soon as I hang up the phone, that was morning, lunchtime, Disney called me up and they said, "Oh, are you up to move to Florida?" And said, "Why is that?" "We're hiring you." But I wasn't ready to move. We just moved from Manila.
Yeah.
Halfway around the world, then you telling me to move again at the other side of the country. So I turned.
So how long had you been in the U.S. then when you got that call?
That was in '96 when they hired me at Disney. So I made some arrangements and I said, so yeah, I mean, so we were encouraged by our family, just go for it. You guys are young, just explore. So I called Disney back and I said, okay, I'll consider, because even though I turned them down to begin with, because I told them my wife was pregnant, we just moved, and they they insisted, they really wanted to give me a chance. Then that's why I gave it to Disney. I mean, they didn't give up, on me. And so on the second call that they gave me, because I sent them, I called them back and I said I want to talk again, and they called me back, and so they helped me move again. So from Manila in '96, we moved to the U.S. Then we stayed in Burbank for 10 months.
Okay.
Then after 10 months, I moved to Florida. As soon as my wife gave birth, we're off to Florida, to the Orlando studio to work on Mulan. And
that's crazy.
So I started with Disney during the time.
Did you have a moment, almost like an out-of-body moment, when you first kind of walked into the studio? I mean, you'd been doing these sleepless nights, you worked, or you moved halfway across the world. Was there something that really stuck out, whether it's that first day or first couple of weeks when you were at Disney?
Yeah, man. I mean, what I thought was a long shot, long time ago. That's why I never planned for any of this. It's just probably it's meant to be. I never thought about it. But I mean, whatever happens in life, there's always a purpose. So, yeah, when it's almost at that time, when you're young and man, you got hired by Disney, who just made Lion King, you're made. That's what I felt,
Yeah.
At that moment, it's like, man, I'm this, just guy fresh off the boat, and now I'll be working for probably the biggest studio in the world. And as soon as I got to Disney, so they, I remember my day one. So I had an orientation. As soon as I went home early. All right, let's go to Disney World.
That's awesome.
So I used my ID already. Let's check this out. So I went. It's day one. That night. Day one actually was my birthday.
Yeah.
At Disney, it was my.
That's awesome.
I know. So So that night, I said, okay, let's go. Might as well go to Disney World. So we checked out Disney World that night. I think we stayed there from 7 o'clock till, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the evening. So first thing I did was go to Magic Kingdom.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it was
That's so
fun.
cool.
But yeah, I mean, it was so surreal because coming from the Philippines, then now I'm working for Disney. So I was so excited. I want to explore everything. I want to know everything about Disney, the insides, and the studio was inside MGM, well, the backlot of MGM Studios. So every day I have an access to MGM. I go to the. I mean, I have lunch at MGM almost every day
That's
because
fun.
we can go through the cast member door and have lunch at Disney World, then go back in and go to work. So, and I had, it was amazing studio. I was there for 7.5 years until it closed down in 2004. But I had lifelong friends that was developed. Friendships that was developed inside the studio, not just for career wise, but life in general. I met the most amazing artists, people during that time. And at the same time, the company, is an amazing company to work for. They really take good care of their artists until now.
Yeah. So it's funny when I talk with folks, especially that were at Disney or in animation back then, going through the late 90s and the early 2000s. It's like a lot of them kind of stopped once really 3D took hold. And Pixar, the rise of Pixar and all that. How did you keep adapting and stay in the game? Like what do you think made it different about you that you're able to transition during those kind of crazy times?
Yeah, there was that was around 2000 when there was a big transition. When Toy Story came out, not everybody jumped in, I believe. I mean, just my perception to the bandwagon. But we know somehow that that's where everything is gonna go. Photoshop came in around the late 90s and 2000. We never imagined that everybody who holds a pencil will translate into holding a digital pencil, right? So when and this is pre-Cintiq, so everything was done in the tablets. It's almost like you're drawing on a mouse pad with a pen. and I said, how can this be? I'm looking at the monitor, and at the same time, my hand is on my table.
Yeah,
so it took me a while, but I remember this. I mean, I love technology. I mean, I'm anything. I mean, just me. I mean, anything new, I want to try it out. I want to. If I could have it, I'll have it. But I love tinkering with toys, especially with technology. So having a tablet for me is like, whoa, this is amazing. So I really invested time. Again, just like when I was building my portfolio, I had to invest time in how to use this. So it took some time for me to get engaged with the tablet, and also with Photoshop. And I mean, it's amazing because the company also gave us some Photoshop lessons. So they had a teacher of photo, and they gave us Maya classes since Maya is being introduced into the industry. So it's not like the studio would leave you hanging. No, they try to encourage us, and actually we don't have to go outside. They give us training for those, which I appreciated. Which actually at some time when they gave us Photoshop lessons, I even thought to myself, the pride sometimes seeps in. I already knew this. All my peers, they're just starting to do Photoshop. I've been doing this for a year already. I know everything about Photoshop.
Yeah.
But when I went to the class, I realized I know nothing. Oh, there are hotkeys. I never knew that there were hotkeys.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot during the time when I took the classes in Photoshop. But yeah, I mean, it didn't take long for me. The only thing though is when I left Disney in 2004, actually the studio, they decided to shut it down in Florida. That gave me an opportunity to explore other studios. So I was offered a job at Sony Pictures Animation. They were just starting at that time, so they were like a year old in 2004. So I check out Pixar. Mostly, the opportunities were mostly 3D. I like 3D, but at the same time, I never wanted to transition completely on 3D layout. you know.
Mhm.
So I want to do visual development, and Sony Pictures Animation, they offered me to do visual development, and they said you will even have a chance to art direct because we're just starting, and so anyway, so I transitioned. They moved me back. They shipped all my stuff back to LA, which is good.
Yeah.
And my wife was pregnant again when we moved back to LA. So
Oh man.
yeah, every time I go back to LA, big things happen in my life.
It sounds like, yeah.
I know. So yeah, so I started working for Sony Pictures Animation, and working. I mean, most of the artists that started the studio um, were basically came from just two studios, from DreamWorks and Disney. So this is my first time to collaborate with artists coming from a little bit different discipline. You know, you have the Disney discipline in some ways, and DreamWorks just came in, and they have their own tastes and different kind of flavor, if you want to put it this way, in terms of design and in terms of approach in animation. Even some of the lingo that we use in figuring out designs, I learned a lot from that collaboration. Again, great studio to be with. I had I developed lifelong friends during that time. I was there for 9 years at Sony. And the cool thing about that, it started a very small studio, and it started growing, and I was able to grow with it. But during that time at Sony, that enhanced my Photoshop. I mean, if we talk about the digital painting, because I was using Corel Painter, and at the same time I was using Photoshop. But Photoshop is starting to become a staple in the industry. So I work with with guys in the studio that are so proficient, is that the word, prolific in Photoshop, that they were able to coach me, because I was in that verge, in the transition. I still draw with pencil, and I would do pencil Photoshop. That's what I've been doing. But during that time, there's a couple of artists that coached me more on how to enhance my Photoshop. So just for an individual, I would say that I grew significantly during that early years at Sony, especially in the realm of digital painting.
That's cool. That's real cool. So then, kind of going off that technology piece, it's been fun to see you recently. You're working in 3D. Like, I think I saw you with like an Oculus and painting inside of like virtual reality and all that kind of stuff. Does it, since you went through that transition from 2D to 3D, does it kind of feel that way right now with some of the crazy VR stuff and people putting art inside of that environment?
No, actually, it's fun. Again, it's another step. I like checking things out, and my purpose for that is not just to enhance myself, or because it's a new toy. I mean, it's a new toy, so it was always fun. I always want to try what's the new. But at the back of my mind, can I use this realistically? Can I use this in real work? And so if it's still lacking, okay, it's good to know that I tried it, I tasted it, then I put it on the shelf for now. Then I may come back to it after some time. But when I saw some, colleagues that have been using Oculus, and not many people are using it. I mean, still a lot of them are using it, but still not that many are using it. I guess some people are still skeptical. Where is this gonna go? Is this worth trying? Is it worth my time to invest on it at this point?
Yeah.
But I love if I could go first on something just like I did with Photoshop or even website building a long time ago. I mean, I would love to try it out, and be relevant in what's going on. So I tried. I look at the VRs, the tilt brush and Oculus. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I like both, but I like the Oculus much better. I guess it's just it's just the feel of it. It's nothing on the brand or anything. But the Oculus it's amazing because you can. I mean, I do a little bit of 3D on my own, just to block let's say if I'm going to design an environment. I love using SketchUp, or even before SketchUp, I use Maya. But Maya kind of is so big It's so heavy. SketchUp is so light. So it's all about my work. It's all about how to speed up the process, So that's why I test things. So I use SketchUp a lot. Then but SketchUp, push and pull. So it's almost like, I would say, mouse work. You do the mouse. Even if you use your finger on a trackpad, it's still mouse work. Even if I use my pen on Maya, it's still mouse work. But this one, you actually draw in space, and you rotate it as if I'm, either it was quill or medium. You could see it in 3D in that space, and I love it. I mean, it's I don't have it yet personally. I'm using other people's or we have a unit in the studio which is there for our training purposes. So I take advantage of that every time that I'm in the studio. I have time in the studio. I would play around with it, and I'm enjoying it because it's so simple. It's the learning curve is almost not. I mean, a kid that probably, if I teach it to my daughter, I mean, she will get it, in no time. But it has so much potential just to visualize things in 3D, which is what everything that we build there. I mean, everything that you draw in flat screen, they're gonna end up in 3D anyways. So this, you can actually visualize it in space. So that's one thing I like about this. And you can create pretty much everything. I mean, especially with the medium, you sculpt it. I can draw with it too, even though it's a sculpting tool. I can draw with it. I can sketch it. So I enjoy it a lot.
That's cool.
So
That's really
I
cool.
know it has and it if I would have it, I could incorporate it in my process too. In my job as a visual development artist, it's easily could be translated into an actual work environment.
Yeah, that's real cool. Well, I know we're getting close on time, but I had to ask you about Zootopia just a little bit. Did you have any favorite layouts or backgrounds or environments that you created for it, looking back on it?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of favorite.
Or maybe one that stands out. It doesn't have to be the favorite.
Sadly, there's one that stands out that was taken out of the film. There was supposed to be I think I posted it on my Facebook when the movie came out around that time. It's called the toilet paper house.
Okay.
It was supposed to be on that sequence when they were in Rodentia, the place for the mice city, and it was a tiny city. So one of the homes, residential homes in the city, was made out of toilet paper. But you have windows, you have a roof, but the guy stepped on it. So they were interviewing a mouse who lived in that house. He was complaining that my house got stepped on. Then they pan on the house, and it's a house that is made out of toilet paper.
That's awesome.
So when they gave me the design for that, I said, man, how many times as an artist do I get to draw a toilet paper house? So that's one of my favorite. But for the ones that got released, I mean, there's so many environments in the movie. But I mean, of course, the significant ones are not that I did there that it's so identifiable that I'm proud of. Was I was part of designing the I forgot what it is now, the carrot pen. It's significant in the film. So anyway, but for environment, there's a lot of, I can't pinpoint really one environment except for the toilet paper house. That's the one that stood out in my mind when you asked me that question. But overall, the whole film, the look of the film, and because it has different environments, it really challenged me as an artist. Those are the ones that I really love to do. Different types of environment in one film. You get to do different worlds in one film.
Yeah, that's real cool. With Olaf coming up later this year, is there anything you can say about that as far as your work towards it?
Olaf, you said?
Yeah, Olaf. Yeah.
Yeah. What about Olaf? Yeah, I mean, I mean, I didn't work on Frozen, but I was fortunate enough for them to have me on board on that project. It was really fun, just to revisit some of the assets that they have done
Yeah.
in Frozen, and amazing crew. I mean, it was a smaller crew, but most of them work in Frozen. So just to revisit that, and there are a lot of new environments. I mean, because I design environments.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool! It means I get to design more. So
Yeah.
there's a few stuff I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to preempt it. I mean, you guys, when we'll probably do. If you want to do this again, I could when that thing comes.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably explain more. But yeah, I was able to design, I think, close to 10 to 15 more homes.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So when you saw the trailer, he's going from house to house, so those facades of the homes have to be designed. So I had to design those. And yeah, there's still a lot of assets that needed to be designed. I thought everything has been designed in the original Frozen, but when they told me, oh, yeah, no, there's some newer stuff. So that, for me, that was exciting, and I get to, dive into the culture and the architecture, the Norwegian architecture and culture, and talking to, the production designer and the art director from the original film. I mean, I learned a lot. That was my first time to do a Norwegian themed story. So in a way that added to the hard drive in my brain, drive of designs. Having learned all those assets that they had before, so and translate it into the new assets that I designed for the featurette.
That's cool. Well, I appreciate your time. It was a blast chat with you. You're just as nice as you seem in your interviews that I've heard. So, and I appreciate it. Your work is obviously your work is amazing.
Thank you.
If folks would keep up with you and follow you, is there any good places that you would point them towards?
Sorry, I didn't catch that one.
Yeah, if folks want to keep up with you, is there any good places to point them towards?
I use Facebook a lot. I have 2 Facebooks. You guys can follow me on my work Facebook. I mean, you can search my name on Facebook, and you'll see my my art Facebook page. I post a lot on Instagram. So that's if you really want to see some of my artwork, most of my artworks that I post, even some of my doodles or whatever I'm doing at the moment, I post them on my Instagram. So that's my main, how do you say that, publishing.
Yeah.
Everything. I also have a Tumblr, and I used to answer all the questions that come my way because I put that ask me anything. Then I feel so bad because when I get so busy, I mean, you can ask me anything, but I cannot promise if I'm going to answer them but you can follow me on Tumblr, and I just started my YouTube channel because what I'm planning to do actually in 2 weeks I'm flying to Icon, Manila, and
cool.
I'm setting up my YouTube channel before I leave. So in the YouTube channel, if you follow that, I'm gonna be posting snippets of work. I mean, just quick drawing tips. And that's also a precursor because I'm planning to sell some tutorials online.
Oh, cool. Cool.
So, but I'll give some drawing techniques too along the way through my YouTube channel. So
That's
yeah,
awesome.
those are the avenues. I have Twitter. Twitter, I'm active but not so active. But Instagram definitely is the one to that you guys could check on.
That's awesome. Well, man, I look forward to those tutorials. I'll definitely be buying them when they're coming out, so I can't wait.
Yeah. At least I know I have one there.
I'll check it out right now. Well, I appreciate your time, and it's been a blast chatting with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Likewise, man. Thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So it's funny you mentioned Andy Harkness is one of my best friends in the industry.
Oh, really? Yeah, he's super nice.
Yeah, we almost started together at Disney Florida. So Tony, Tom, myself, Andy Harkness, we all worked together when we were in Florida.
That's
But
cool.
Andy Harkness, we're both in layout department, so we started, in the same department, and we there were four of us in cubicles. In our offices are always adjacent to each other. So Andy, myself, and two other guys for years. That was my group. I mean, he was my Nintendo 64 nemesis.
That's awesome. Mario, was it Mario Kart?
No, we use but this is funny. We had a Nintendo 64. We use GoldenEye.
Oh, yes.
So
Yeah.
we were like GoldenEye champions at that time.
Yeah.
And we stuck with that. And we played two games for the whole time we were at Disney. GoldenEye and Perfect Darkness.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome.
Those are your games. So until now, he has the Nintendo 64 with four controllers in his office. So we would still play every now and then GoldenEye just for the kicks of it.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
That's really funny. Well, I definitely appreciate your time. It was a
Oh,
blast.
you're
chatting with
welcome.
you.
Thanks, man. It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
See ya.
See you, man.